Hey guys, my name's Lorna Baker and I'm here to show you how to make a wet felted Easter egg using a foam ball left over from Easter. That's what I have here. I'm going to use wool, hot water, some soap, and some cold water. So here I have is wool roving. The wool roving you can get at a lot of craft stores. This is from Rumpelstiltskin in Sacramento. And I'm just going to take a small chunk of it. And I'm going to wrap it around my egg. So I'm going to grab my egg, pulling it apart. And I want to wrap it in one direction first, and then I'm going to wrap it in another direction. So I'm rolling it nice and tight. I'm going to grab another chunk of wool. Here we go. Pull this one apart as well. And I'm going to wrap it the other direction. We do this so that the fibers interlock. I'm going to hold it pretty firmly here, and then I'm going to dunk it into my water. This water is really hot. It's as hot as I can possibly stand. And I'm just using some soap I have on hand. I heard that Dawn dish soap is a little bit too good at its job, so I would not use Dawn dish soap. You could use bar soap. The Dawn dish soap just removes a lot of the lanolin that's in the sheep's wool, so that it doesn't felt as nicely, I find. So I'm dunking it in the water, and I'm just going to gently squish it together. As gently as you can. If you are pressing too firmly at this point, what will happen is you're going to get all these creases and folds in there that you're not going to want. Another thing that you can do is just watch for those and kind of bust them as you see them. I tend to always have a few folds, and I'll show you how to deal with those later. So here I'm just felting, squishing the fibers close together. Again, I'm going nice and slow. If you're too fast with this and you're rubbing all around just like you would at the end here, it's going to felt too quickly and you're going to have a lumpy egg. For the center of mine, I'm using a piece of styrofoam left over from a few years ago. I got them at the dollar store. You can use plastic Easter eggs, or you can just use wool. The reason why I use the foam one is because I could not find my plastic ones, but it'll do the same thing. I'll be able to cut this egg open and add a little surprise inside. And I'll be able to reuse that foam egg, so there's really no waste with that. If you wanted to use just wool, it does get a little bit more expensive, but you could make any size. You could make a jumbo egg, you could make a mini egg, depending on how much wool you wanted to use. It is a little bit more difficult to shape an egg without the form on the inside, so I highly recommend this method. If you didn't want to spend 20 minutes felting like I did, you can take a pair of pantyhose and toss this in there with a bunch of soap and put it in your washer for about 5 minutes, and it will felt in your washer. So as it cools, as my egg starts to cool, that's why I'm dunking it in the water. And if it becomes less slick than I want, so if my fingers aren't moving around smoothly, that's why I'm adding more soap. So there's no wrong way to do this. I'm just massaging the egg in a circular motion, and that's really going to bind the fibers together. And you can see at the top of my egg, there's a few valleys kind of forming at the top here, right here. I'm trying to poke those down and smush them in and make them softer, but I will have to add wool later to make it stretch and to fix those. So this is going to be more of the same for a few more minutes. I'm going to speed this up and I'll be back. Okay guys, we're back and I'm just working my egg a little bit more here, and then I'm gonna grab some more wool because I have some little creases, so I'm just drying off my hands so I don't get all of my wool contaminated with water, pulling off a few chunks. Here we go. So I have that crease there. I'm just gonna wrap this around, and I wanna make sure I don't get more creases, so I'm going to be very careful with how I'm wrapping this piece. Just smoothing out all of the edges so I don't have any more bulkiness. Dunking it in my hot water. And I'm just working that in with my fingers like I did the other wool. Again, I need to be gentle here because the wool is not felted down. So I'm going slow and massaging in the direction that I want the wool to go, just while I'm laying it flat, and then I'm going to be a little bit more vigorous with it. I'm going to give it some good squeezes and try and felt it down a little bit more. And you can feel if your wool is felted because it will be more firm. It won't wiggle around as much. It will wiggle a bit because I'm using a core. So if you're using a plastic Easter egg or this little glitter egg like I have here, it may slip around a bit from the inside, and that's okay. But you'll feel when it starts to felt down because it won't move as much. There won't be as much room on the inside. It'll feel more like a fabric. So I'm just going to keep tapping these out, tapping out all those crevices. They're already disappearing nicely. I am going to add, I think, a stripe of wool around here. I want it to have that Easter egg vibe, but the type of wool that I have here, it's hand dyed and it has a varied pattern to it. It's a bunch of greens and blues. I didn't realize it when I picked this towel that it actually quite matches this towel. So I'm gonna grab that now, and I'm just gonna find a piece that has a nice stripe across it. And you can use any colors you want for this. You could use a different color wool. You could use yarn. You could wrap it with all sorts of little pieces of scrap wool that you have, make polka dots and felt those on. And that's really fun. So I have this piece that has a nice stripe to it, and I'm just gonna wrap that around the opposite direction of what I put the last piece on in a spiral motion. Oh yeah, it's already looking really cool. I'm happy with this. And then I'm just gonna continue the same process. I'm going to dunk it in the hot water. I'm going to add soap. I'm just trying to get it situated on there so that it doesn't completely fall off when I dunk it in the hot water. My water is starting to cool down because I am using such a small bowl for this tutorial. I recommend using a larger amount of hot water. You can use it to water your plants afterwards, so there's no waste. The soap actually is good to kill parasites that live on like your rose bushes and things, so it's not a waste. I would use hot water as hot as you can stand it, and I mean like almost boiling, because the hotter the water, the better the results you're gonna get. And at the end here, I'm actually gonna go between the hot water and the cold water. So if you've ever had any wool jackets or clothes that shrink in the washer, a lot of the times that's because it's going from extreme temperatures of hot and cold, and the agitation is felting it. So when you have shrinkage on your sweaters, it's because they are going from hot to cold and they're being agitated. So essentially you're felting your sweaters. And this stripe is working out quite nicely. Just going to continue. I'm doing circles. I find doing a circle motion works the best because you're moving the fibers in multiple directions. And if you think about how a lot of Velcro works, is because it's grabbing in different ways, different directions. Giving it a few gentle squeezes here and there, just to kind of make sure that my shape is going along with my form. I feel like I'm gonna have a bit more wool at the top here, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit more shaping. And now I'm gonna go from the hot water to the cold water. Dunk it in the cold water. And I'm only doing this for a few seconds, just until you feel the warmth leave your egg. And then I'm just gonna push it around a little bit more and dunk it back in the hot water till it feels warm. This just makes the felting process go a lot faster. I can usually felt an egg together in about 10 minutes if I'm not doing a tutorial. I did go a bit slower so that I could show you the hand movements and how I'm agitating it. My fingers usually move quite a bit faster than this. Oh yeah, those stripes are looking really nice. Just giving it some more gentle squeezing, and I'm gonna dunk it back and forth a few more times, just to make sure it's nice and felted. At the very end, you also want to make sure that you rinse out any soap that you may have. This is a great technique for making purses and clothing and hats. This is actually how they make many hats, or how they used to. Now they do it on forms. But if you ever saw a felted hat, that is the same way they would take a form and they would felt wool around it. All right, so again, I'm gonna speed this up and I'll be back with the finished egg. Okay, here we are back with our egg. This is the final look. Here it is next to the original. This is the foam core that's inside. This is going to be a little bit bigger because we've had the added wool, but I think the end result came out really nice. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.